All right, continuing on with my Bitcoin series, this week we are covering what is Bitcoin, and this first one is what is Bitcoin. When I go to try and explain, not necessarily explain, but just kind of educate a little bit, one of the things that's so hard to educate people about Bitcoin and crypto in general, but Bitcoin, is it does so many things so accessibly well. It's hard to even explain it. It gets complicated real quick, even though the functions of it's simple. So I put together a series of videos here that's going to cover a lot of what is actual Bitcoin. So let's jump in.
Before we do, you're right. When you're talking to people, I always hear people say, somebody will say, "Oh, is it a currency? So it's like cash?" And you're like, "Yes," and then somebody will say, "Oh, is it like property, like owning a house or owning gold?" And it's like, yes, it's like, depends on which way you want to take them. There's so many ways you can to try to explain Bitcoin. So let's hear what he has to say about what is Bitcoin and why it has value.
Faux show. So we'll start with what many people believe is the best explanation of Bitcoin. This was recorded about a year ago.
I can't believe Saylor doesn't have the best explanation, but I'll hear this.
I got him in here too.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, and it works because of the world's first public blockchain network. What does Bitcoin do? It's simple. It lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection. Now, why is it revolutionary? Because unlike every other tool for sending money over the internet, it works without the need to trust a middleman. The lack of any corporation in between means that Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payments infrastructure. And by public, I simply mean available to all and not owned by any single entity. Now, we have public infrastructure for information, for websites.
So there he is describing decentralization, which at least prior to crypto was a new word to me, comes up a lot. And so now I don't pay a lot of attention to it, but it's absolutely the underlying factor for so much of what is making Bitcoin. So let's continue on.
Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Is it perfect? No. Neither was email when it was invented in 1972. Bitcoin's not the best money on every margin. It's not yet accepted everywhere. It's not used often to quote prices, and it's not always a stable store of value. But it is working, and the mere fact that it works without trusted intermediaries is amazing. It's a computer science breakthrough, and it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet. And Bitcoin is just the beginning. If we can replace private payments infrastructure, then we can replace other private choke points to human interaction as well. Now,
I loved how he said, "Is it perfect? No. Is it working?"
I was going to say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, boy.
Point being is it's revolutionary and it is working. So it's something that's new that we're still getting our hands wrapped around it, right. But it's actually working. It's replacing a lot of the broken system. So Bitcoin, it's an infrastructure. It's decentralized. It's a currency. What is something Michael Saylor thinks about?
Bitcoin is not just the best digital commodity. It's the best commodity, right? Bitcoin's the only commodity in the world, that's digital. Everything else is a physical commodity. And because it's digital, it's fixed in supply. Everything else is physical, therefore not fixed in supply. That makes Bitcoin superior to gold, and gold is the king of commodities. When I started my career at DuPont, commodity was a dirty word. Every single business decision.
Okay, so Bitcoin is a currency, a decentralized currency. It's also a commodity too, what's another commodity that we know as a currency, Ben? What comes to mind? Silver. Well, that is true. Gold was the answer I was looking for, but we'll take silver also. So, but Bitcoin is better than gold. And if you want to know why, you got to dig deeper into these videos, which will include the links, but let's keep this rolling. This is the interview with Breedlove, the series that he did. This is revolutionary. Here we go.
We see it throughout all areas of science, but right now this is just the first time in human history that we see this creation of a pure digital monetary network. And I want to replace monetary network with energy network, because monetary energy is energy, and money is energy. In fact, money is the highest form of energy. So if we ask the question, what is money? Money is the highest form of energy that human beings can channel.
Money is energy in the form, and again, for better explanation, you have to go through this series, which is 100% worth it. If money is the most productive energy, it means that you work, giving your energy as you work, and you're given money as a, what's the word I'm looking for? A payment, a token.
A
you're
representation of the amount of work that you have done.
Exactly, which obviously is affected by quality and, work ethic and all that. Anyways, that energy transfers over time, sometimes short term, to the grocery store, sometimes long term in investments. But now we're considering it, not only is it a currency, it's a commodity, and now it's a monetary network, or in other words, an electrical network.
Night ticks on fleet, fuck with it, fuck me, fuck shorty, fuck.
Is humans prosper by channeling energy?
Yeah.
Now, what's the most efficient energy network in the history of the world? Well, it's about to be Bitcoin, because the challenge of humanity is, how do I store energy and transmit energy across time and space and domain? And by domain, I mean perhaps governmental domain. Like, how do I move my energy from New York to Tokyo? And this becomes an interesting question, right? Let's take a typical power grid. Well, I generate power.
So he gets into this more and more, and starts talking about how, a power grid, they transfer power, electricity over the grid, you lose it, it deteriorates. Same thing with oil, you're transferring through the pipelines, it deteriorates. That's another form of energy. If the dollar or money is considered energy, transferring it through time and space, it's also debasing and losing value. Bitcoin doesn't do any of that.
Yeah. He talks about in that, either that video or one of the ones in the series, he talks about how, when it's very windy out, you can generate a lot. But then if you don't have anywhere to store it, or if you lose it while it's just sitting, if you put it into a battery, that battery loses a little bit of, the charge over time. You can't just, hey, it was really windy this month, store that, we'll save it. But he's saying, but you can do that with Bitcoin while you're young, while you're healthy, while you are capable of great amounts of work. You can work, and you can turn that work into Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin will be as good or better than it was when you earned it 100 years. Now you're 100 years old, you're 101 years old. You can't work. You can't go out and break your back. You can't do, stonemason. You can't do carpentry. You can't do the physical stuff. But because you have transferred that energy from your youth, he's saying through time, through boundary, through everything. He's saying once it's generated, you can keep it no matter when you want to use it, or whether you want to transfer it to your kids. And there is nothing else that can do what Bitcoin can do in that sense.
In that same fashion, as you're holding your Bitcoin and other people are utilizing theirs or holding it and it's increasing in value or doing these amazing things, it's increasing in value. It's an asset that is growing not just from its financial rewards, but from the strength of the digital network that's growing, which again is something we've never seen before. So it's so hard to wrap your head around or hands around. Let me close with this statement because as I was going through these videos trying to wrap it up together. It's a currency, it's a commodity, it's a monetary network, it's many other things, which my series of videos, my next couple are going to get into. But here's the statement that I wrote. Bitcoin is many things, which adds to its current complication for people. But it's many things because the underlying technology is so revolutionary, secure, transparent, accessible, and simple in function that it leads itself as a solution to many of the world's problems. So it is confusing because it is so many things so well and so usable in fixing so many problems. It's hard to grasp exactly where it's going next. And that's why I continue to do videos of Bitcoin over and over and over and over again. All right. So that's the video on what is Bitcoin.
Perfect.